Hi, my name is Devin Howie. Today I'm going to be talking about military intervention against ISIS in Iraq and Syria. Now, these are efforts led by the United States and reciprocated by many other states across the world to help rid Iraq and Syria of the terrorist group ISIS. First, I'm going to start off by giving a little bit of information about who ISIS is. They are an unrecognized proto-state, which essentially is a political entity which does not represent a fully institutionalized or autonomous sovereign state. They are Salafi jihadists, which basically means they believe in an extreme form of Islam which promotes violence, and they're considered a militant group. And they proclaim that they are a worldwide caliphate, which gives themselves complete control over Muslims all across the world, both religiously and politically. Now, uh, a good majority of Muslims don't align their views with ISIS's views. They don't believe in that. So to them, or to ISIS, those Muslims they don't consider them Muslims. They're not Islamic people. So that's just a little bit, on the surface of what ISIS is. To summarize the conflict that I'll be talking about, following a major gain of Iraqi and Syrian territory by ISIS in early 2014, several states decided to support the fight against ISIS, both militarily and financially. In mid-June 2014, Iran began flying drones over Iraq and sent soldiers there to begin fighting ISIS. And then the United States followed suit by sending troops and flying some drones as well. And then beginning in late 2014, Iran and the United States began airstrikes on ISIS militants, ISIS leaders, just all sorts of ISIS targets in northern Iraq. Now, these attacks weren't coordinated, but they were both running them at the same time. And then in September of that year, Secretary of State John Kerry urged the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Canada, Australia, Turkey, Denmark, and Italy to lend their support to the cause, any of their finances or any sort of military resources that they could offer up. And then that December, those same countries, plus another 49 more, met to discuss how best to handle the threat of ISIS. Secretary Kerry put an emphasis on defeating ISIS's ideology, funding, and recruitment rather than focusing efforts on airstrikes or other military action. And it was here that these 50-plus countries formed the global coalition to counter the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, or Syria. Levant is the area which Syria occupies. So here we can take a look at some of the states that are offering their support to Iraq and Syria. On the left we have states that are intervening in both countries, and you'll see the United States and some of the main other countries that I had previously named, plus a couple more. This isn't all of them. These are just a few to list, so you can get a visual of it. And then on the right, we have states who are only intervening in Syria. You see bigger countries like Russia, Saudi Arabia, and UAE. And actually, last summer, Russia and the United States were in talks to coordinate their airstrikes in Iraq, but that never came to fruition. So, oh well. Now, I'm going to discuss the types of war that are taking place in this conflict. We've got, first and foremost, a hegemonic war. ISIS's main goal is to take over the earth. And they released an official statement in their own magazine, the Dabiq magazine, saying that they won't stop, this is a quote, until their blessed flag covers all eastern and western extents of the earth, filling the world with the truth and justice of Islam, and putting an end to the falsehood and tyranny of ignorance, even if Americans and their coalitions despise such. Now, this is a clear statement of their intent to take over the entire planet, which would directly qualify as a hegemonic war. But to do this, they have to start where they're at. So many members of ISIS are Iraqis and Syrians, and there's two reasons. One, that's obviously the areas where they formed, but they continue to recruit Iraqis and Syrians more heavily because they need more of those people to help maintain the hold that they already have in those countries. um, when the United States and Iran began to step in, it was because ISIS was starting to gain more and more territory in Iraq and Syria. And one thing that sticks out is they overtook the Mosul Dam, which was the biggest dam in Iraq. And recently they lost that. The Iraqis retook control of that earlier in the summer. However, these are the types of things, they were starting in the countries they were in, and they were expanding their area, taking parts of Iraq and Syria away from those countries and inhabiting them as their own, which caused a civil war. Civil wars that are still going on now in both of these countries because, as I stated, these people are citizens of those countries. Of course, in response, the outside states, such as the U.S. and France, Germany, all the other countries I named, are conducting raids, airstrikes with the drones, like we talked about in the last module. They're offering troops, they're offering rations to the Iraqi army, and the Kurds are fighting as well. The United States is working closely with them as well. So other states are offering help and engaging in raid type war. And then, of course, for the unconventional form, we have terrorism, which ISIS is using to respond to these other states who are helping Iraq and Syria. And ISIS is carrying these terrorist attacks out, across the globe, as I'm sure all of you already know. Major cities that they're targeting. Now, getting into the levels of analysis, we're mainly operating in the domestic and the interstate level here. For the domestic level, we've got ethnic conflict and nationalism. So even though they're an unrecognized state, to themselves they are a state, so they feel a strong sense of nationalism towards, ISIS, the Islamic State. That's what they are. So that's gonna be, a main key driver in what they're doing. And then also we're on the interstate level where you have a struggle for balance and power in Iraq and Syria, and that's what's the main cause of war in these countries. And then obviously we also have the terrorism, which operates on the global level, but that the everyday struggle is the fighting going on, the wars. Now, the types of conflict we have, there's two types going on here. The religious conflict, of course. To reiterate it, ISIS believes in the Salafi jihadism, and the scholar Gilles Keppel, who actually coined that term, describes it as the combined respect for the sacred texts in their most literal form, with an absolute commitment to jihad, whose number one target has to be America, perceived as the greatest enemy of faith. So, of course, anybody who doesn't share the same religious views as them is an enemy, and they make the greatest enemy America. And then we also have a territorial conflict. As already stated, their main goal is to take over the world. However, they currently, since they're losing land, they need land to operate out of. So they're working hard to maintain as much territory as they can before they lose it. But their goal is to take over all the territory. So it's good news that we're seeing results like the retaking of the Mosul Dam and the area of occupation that ISIS is occupying is shrinking. So that is why they're fighting for that territory. And of course, this only begins to scratch the surface of the conflict that's going on over there, but that's just a little bit about it and how it relates to the things that we've learned in this module. So, thank you.